So we just got the frame and the bulkhead back from the sandblasters, and it looks a heck of a lot different than it did the other day. There's the cross member we have left to put in before we go over to powder coating. One thing that we weren't able to get ready before we went to sandblast, but the bulkhead looks really nice, and this is actually going to become the next project. You can kind of see what's going on here with the P38 Power Steering and with the P38 linkage. You can see the problem we've got here is that this is the original series column that used to go into the worm gear, that used to go into the whole box, and we've got to get into that, which isn't going to work. So we've gone with the P38 at the very end of a power steering column. No, I'm sorry, the steering column, which as you can see has got the right teeth configuration for there. This will all pass up in through here. So I want to kind of give a rough mock-up here of what's going to happen with the steering setup, steering assembly. So you can see already we've talked so much about the P38 box is roughly in place. The shaft link, with the collapsible shaft link, is also in place with the U-joints, just right out of a Range Rover P38. This is the original 1963 series column, and you can see I've just got it loosely just set in here. It's not even clamped and roughly kind of in place. But what we're getting at here is, here's kind of obviously our problem. Is not really a big problem. So what I've seen so far is that we will end up making a cut here and a cut here to be able to get this chunk out of the way. This original bracket, which is what held the steering box assembly before, will go away. So just this frame mount for the bulkhead will stay. And so obviously all we're doing for simplicity's sake is just laying this on top. I mean, literally just that simple to get our measurement. Now, to get an idea, you'll find this actually online quite a bit. This is going to take a bracket that is going to have fabrication. There'll be a piece of metal that we're, steel that we'll bring out that'll have 2 bolts here, and then that steel will come up and turn at an angle, and these screws you see on the bottom of this, just the bottom 2 will mount to it. So at the end, you're going to have this sitting pretty much right here with a piece of steel holding it in place. Now we know that that's roughly where it's going to go. We also know that give or take a little bit is okay. There's probably another reason why online you don't see a lot of measurements. Like, one thing I know that you're really looking for is tell me exactly what to do. You just don't see any measurements, and here's why. Because this can go up or down a little bit and not make that big of a deal. What we've done, just so we can get the shaft over to the fabrication shop, you'll notice a piece of tape here, and here's what it is. It needs to be that long. So I'm sure there's a more scientific way to do this, but you can see now that I've said that very clearly. This piece goes away. We'll notch this down. I've got no more clearance problems here. Everything works out perfectly, and I'm able to keep the original column, the original shaft, and of course the original steering wheel, rather than having to swap over to a Defender. So that being said, what we're going to be doing next is just making sure that once we've chopped this, we've got the end to the P38 steering shaft that we'll be welding on up here within this area. You can tell we're going to basically make a chop, right about where my thumb is. Coming to a realization as we're doing this that we think we've got a better plan of attack. If you look at what originally would happen with the original Series 2A column and the original Series 2A steering shaft, what we know is that 28.5 inches long is how long the shaft needs to be. You can see we started doing measurements for how long things have to protrude beyond this point, 2.25. And we got to realizing that the P38 end inner diameter is roughly the same as this outer diameter. So what that's going to allow us to do, if we then look a little bit more closely to go to the machine shop, is that all I need to tell the machinist is I need the length from here to here to be 28.5 with this brought on. If you look very closely here, this is hardened and there is a little bulge here. This is hollow. What we're going to have him probably do is cut up in here and cut up in here and machine down, so that just like you can see he sleeved this hardened part into this other sleeve, he'll cut, make sure our measurements are going to be the same, cut, and we'll be able to then taper this and sleeve that in before we do the weld and give ourselves quite a bit of purchase with that. So that's our current plan. And in doing that, what we end up with is no extra machining work. The original bearing for the P38 will sit nicely right here with the thrust washer and C-clip where it's supposed to be, seating it nicely in here. The only thing that'll have to happen is that we'll do a little bit of a different mount on the bulkhead. So, and also this will now probably sit a little bit further back, because you can see that this is supposed to only be 2 1/4 roughly out. We know that part roughly, and it'll be just a little different. But anyway, that's kind of what we're doing. I wanted to take a picture before we take it to the machine shop so you can kind of see what all we're doing, and then we'll have the after of what he's done. Saves us a trip to the bearing shop, getting all the inner and outer diameter dimensions that we were starting to futz with, and I don't know, we'll just see how this goes.